Hello again, my name is Dr. Bill Johnson. I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Exploring Our Schools. Today we're really going to focus on something which is somewhat new to Southside High School and to the school district. One would wonder why we haven't been so deeply involved in business over the years, but it's not something that we have committed ourselves to until just recently. And that is incorporating business, although we've had it for years, into our IB program. And what we have today are a number of guests who are going to talk to us a little bit about why we got started, when we got started, and also what the program looks like. So I have Liz Nisler, who is our assistant principal and coordinates the IB program. Peter English, who is a teacher in the program. Thank you, Peter, for joining us. And Emma Beckensall, who is a first-year student in the program and a junior here at Southside High School. Thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Liz, if you don't mind, could we just talk a little bit about the history? You heard me just kind of talk a little bit about, we just introduced it as part, even though we've been committed to business for many years, it's just recently become part of the International Baccalaureate program that we have here at Southside. Talk a little bit about why now.
Okay. Well, we always like to think about how can we open up choices for our students and engage them further into the program, whether they're course candidates or full diploma candidates. So, when you look at the course offerings that we have, especially in terms of the diploma, students who choose to do the full diploma, in order to do that, you need what we call 3 higher level and 3 standard level courses. The higher level just means that they're 2-year courses. The standard level means that they're 1-year courses. But for higher level, you need 3 of the classes. And what we found was, students were either choosing to double up in science or they were choosing one of the arts as their 3rd higher level. But if you don't intend to become a scientist or you don't see yourself as an artist, what other options were there available for our students? So we wanted to create more opportunity for choice, and that's why that led us to IB Business.
Well, so many of our kids now leave us, and it's just not math or social sciences, English, or engineering, for example. A lot of kids leave us and want to major in business.
Exactly, and that was really the second reason. When you look at our graduates and where so many of them are headed, so many enter the business world. So many are involved in accounting and finance and marketing and human resources. And we do have business courses here, but we wanted to give those students an opportunity to engage in the IB diploma program and explore that interest.
So this gives them a good head start.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that head start. What does it?
Yeah,
what's different about it?
What
makes it a little bit more of a challenge, I guess, to many of our students? And what do you think actually? Part of the decision, as you heard what Liz was just saying, is to get these kids better prepared for a business major when they leave us. So if we could just kind of integrate that into where that decision-making process came from and what the coursework might look like.
Yeah, the coursework, which is really nice, it touches really on all the major aspects of business, business organizations, marketing, human resources, like Liz said, finance, and operations. So it really gives them a little bit of taste of everything over the course of the 2 years. And what they'll get, they'll be able to focus on a certain area that they like, moving on to college. But really what the course does, it prepares them for college really well. When they begin to take those courses, when they get to college, the business majors, which happens to be the most popular major for students, they're ready. They hit the ground running. They have a major advantage between the writing skills that it takes and critical thinking skills that IB offers. They really have a major advantage. It's a great course.
Which brings us to you. You're willing to do that, huh?
Yeah. I think that, I saw it as an opportunity to find something, I think when you're younger in elementary school, you get to see that, I like art when I'm younger, and I like math, or I like science when I'm younger, but you don't really get, exposed to business when you're younger. And I actually didn't get exposed to it in my first 2 years here, but I said that I hadn't really found that thing that was, calling my name, and I figured, why not try it? And I actually really enjoyed it.
So you want to pursue business when you finish?
Definitely.
When you finish with us and then go on into college.
Yeah, I want to do something in the field of marketing or public relations.
If you don't mind me trying to get inside your head just for a minute, where'd that come from? Why business?
Why business? Well, I've always liked art because it gave me the opportunity to find and create something based off of a guideline. But I didn't really like like the execution of it, because my things never looked like I wanted them to. Is kind of where I was going with it. But I was like, there's other fields that involve creativity that aren't necessarily artistic. And I felt like business, there were so many fields like within there that had creativity, and I was like, I don't see why not.
Isn't that interesting? We don't usually associate creativity with business, but it's fascinating that you just put the two together. And that's really what drove you, not drove you, but at least allowed you to make that decision of moving to
Definitely,
business.
yeah.
Has it been what you thought it would be?
It's different than what I thought it would be, and honestly, it's got so much more room for like how you want to take it than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more like numerical and like textbook learning, and there's so much room for like interpretation and how like the road you want to take with it. Then that's why like I really enjoy it.
Now, he just talked about the exposure. Do you feel comfortable with the variety of things that you're hearing about?
Definitely, and I feel like I'm a junior, so I've started to look at colleges. The way that they talk about like the starting courses for their students, the things that they're talking about are things that like I've been exposed to like for the first 3 quarters of my school year this year, and it's already like making that leap from high school to college seem a lot less daunting.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the courses. How many courses are we talking about now?
So we have 3 first-year courses in the works right now. So it's about roughly 70, 75 students. And then we'll be offering another 3 next year.
And what's the junior level course called?
It's just IB Business Management, year 1.
Year 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second course would be?
Year 2.
Year
Yep,
2.
The same course title. So the first year, we'll take a look at business organizations, marketing, which we're in right now, and then we'll end with human resources. So we do 3 main units that take us through the course.
I was an
year.
IB teacher.
Mhm.
I mean, I happen to know that it's kind of a different experience.
Mhm.
You're connected now to the IB program and to people. How'd you feel you were prepared for this?
Yeah, it's definitely a different undertaking. It's one I was always in my career looking for something more, something where I could challenge my students. And what this IB program, it fit what I was looking for perfectly.
So what is the challenge that you're talking about when you use that word?
It's the critical thinking. It's the creativity. It's taking.
Good Lord, that's the two of you.
Right, right, yeah, right. It's
Whoa.
the problem solving. And we're taking content, which I'm used to teaching in my classes, but now we're taking real life examples, and we're having the students interpret, evaluate, apply them, and
When you say a real life example, do you
Okay,
dismantle
for
a-
instance, recently we covered the Super Bowl ads. Obviously, that's a big deal in marketing. We talked about Nintendo Switch. It was the first time Nintendo came out with their own Super Bowl commercial, and the students were able to analyze and evaluate the merits of whether it was worth the money that they spent on the $4.5 million on doing so, and who they were trying to reach, and did they do an effective job of that. So it's there's really
So what did you conclude?
yeah.
Well, honestly, my biggest surprise out of that was that like Doritos didn't go into it, and like I actually saw that like they weren't just focused on like creating a commercial that we enjoyed, because that was only so much. And I think I saw like all the factors that like come out of what a commercial does, not just getting a laugh out of people watching the Super Bowl, but like I realized that like all those commercials have like an ulterior motive that like, and they weren't seeing the profit. And to me, that was like, I thought the profit was just making me laugh watching it, and like clearly like analyzing them from like a business perspective made me realize like all the different reasonings behind the commercials.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they want you to buy their product. So what is their underlying?
Well, that's it. It's room for interpretation, which is nice, is why it works so well with the critical thinking aspect, is that every student or employee of whatever company it is, Nintendo, Doritos, can have their own insight and come up with draw their own conclusions based on, theories that we discuss. So it's.
So do you now eat Doritos?
I mean, yeah, but honestly, like it's different to look at them. Like you just like different things. Like honestly, like when I look at the packaging, like now, like the things I've learned in this class, like I see different things, and it's just like you look at it from such a different perspective, and like there's so many different things like that I would choose to look at rather than like I did before I was exposed to all of this.
Right. So there's the creativity. I mean,
Yes.
when you get right down to it and ask yourself whether it's Nintendo or Doritos,
And you could even
who is designing that?
Right. And it could be even taken on another level. I love to tell my students that come into the class, maybe, business, they don't want to go into strictly business, but they might want to pair it with something else that they're interested in, whether they want to be a doctor, whether they want to be in the arts. if they ever open their own business or own practice, that they're going to have it, the business aspect to that, and they're marrying it. That's a creative aspect too for them. Is to,
It's so
is to bridge
interesting.
that
You
gap.
walk into any doctor's office today and you realize you're not just walking into a physician's office,
Yeah,
you're
it's
walking into a business.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Right.
Uh,
So we get it, there's a ton of interest there when they realize that, okay, I can marry these two things that I like together, my interest with the business aspect. And we even recently with this past election, it's in the news, it's relevant information, it's real world stuff that's happening, and they can analyze and they really understand what's happening and what's, making the world tick. And
Yeah, one of the messages I think that we learned in this last election was people who voted for our president were looking to marry business with government in some way, and whether it's going to happen or not,
Right.
we don't know what the ultimate impact will be. But again, here we go with business, and it's kind of walking its way into so many different
Yeah.
avenues of how we live our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I guess, if you don't mind, Liz, just talking with me for a couple of minutes about numbers. This has really been more than we expected, is it not?
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about that.
The response was amazing. As Pete mentioned before, we had about 70 or more students interested, so we were able to open up the 3 sections, and we're looking at similar numbers potentially for next year. The offshoot of that was that the diploma enrollment actually grew quite a bit, which we expected to some extent, but perhaps not as much as it did. We had always toyed around the 50% mark of the class attempting the diploma. And as of right now, we're somewhere in the range of 66, 67%. So it really did fit with what we had posited, that students are perhaps looking for something else. Like I said, maybe they didn't want to double up in the science, maybe they don't see themselves as artists. This kind of filled in a gap that we apparently had, and so many more students are looking to challenge themselves, looking to, attempt the diploma and enjoy the different aspects of it. And I think that's great because, as we've been saying, it's really going to prepare them well for college.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people watching this don't understand a lot of what we're talking about because they're not inside the IB program, but there is a decision that a student must make when they enter their junior year as to whether or not they want to pursue the diploma
Right.
versus just taking some courses in IB.
Exactly.
So what business has done, the diploma, just tell us for a moment what the diploma involves.
Okay, so I started to mention earlier, to earn a diploma, you have to take 3 higher level classes, those 2-year classes, and the 3 standard level, which are 1 to 2 year courses. In addition to that, you take the 3 central elements. So that is the theory of knowledge class that students take their senior year. It's involvement in creativity, activity, and service, which is basically what students are already involved in, outside of school. It's beyond the classroom into their lives,
Right.
that sort of holistic picture of students. And then there's the extended essay, which is an extended paper. It's a research paper. So those components all make up the diploma, and what I had been saying was, all the students will take English higher level, and they'll all take history higher level, but it's that 3rd higher level where they have that opening, and this is where business fit in really nicely and encouraged so many students to take on this challenge, and we think it's wonderful.
So, that challenge in the aggregate, which is not just focusing on a single set of courses, but in fact the
Program itself.
entire program. I guess I know the answer to this, but tell us a little bit about the preparation that it provides for our kids when they leave us.
The biggest thing is that they're just able to think for themselves. They're critical thinkers. They know how to
He's
research.
nodding
They
his head
know
over
how
there.
to write.
That's
So
it.
is
So is
Emma.
Emma.
I mean, I
Okay.
hear it all the time for the graduates who come
The
back.
word is out there, right?
And I'm
Yeah.
hearing it from our own students. They're just so well prepared by the time they get to school. They know how to manage their time. They know how to do research, how to conduct it, how to think creatively as well as critically, how to be innovative. One of the great things about the IB program is, I guess, 2 things. Their assessments tend to be open-ended. We're not talking multiple choice questions and just memorizing content. It's really about being exposed to different context and real-world scenarios and making decisions based on the information presented to you. So with that, and with the opportunities to try different assessments, I guess I should say that as well. For the internal assessment, which all IB classes have, the students will be doing a research project.
Mhm.
When they get to the actual assessments in senior year, there's some assessments with a quantitative focus, so the numbers that Emma mentioned before that she was kind of anticipating, but then also more little scenarios, or larger case studies that they're exploring from the 5 lenses of the course,
Right.
from the finance, from the human resources,
Right.
so that they're really getting this holistic picture, but in a real world sort of context. And I think that's what's so great. It's not the multiple choice. It's the opportunity to delve into these scenarios and really explore them.
So the challenge is there, and you're willing to do it.
Yeah.
So-
Honestly, I've heard from so many people that have graduated, just between friends and siblings. My older sister's a freshman in college, and she said as she was doing it, it was always is this worth it? Is it worth it? And she said this her first year, within the first 2 months, she just felt so overly prepared. Honestly, she said here we do a lot of peer editing within our classes. She said that the weakest writing in her high school class was 10 times better than the best writing in her classes now at college.
Wow.
She said it doesn't compare, and she feels so adequately prepared. And I feel that's a motivation to me to say that as I'm doing it, I'm
It's
talking
work,
to people
though.
from other
Now,
schools.
let's not pretend for 1 second that it's not.
It's not.
You put a lot of time in and
Yeah.
effort. This is not, when we talk about a challenge, it is a challenge.
Definitely.
But
I
you're willing
think
to do it.
Yeah. I feel you just hear from so many people that as you do it, you kind of question it, and then once you finish it, it's also this sense of accomplishment that as I was in high school, I completed something that college kids are doing, and that to me makes me feel so prepared to go into college.
Right. So we're right down to the last word. So Peter, if you wouldn't mind, the kids, you think they're going to hit the ground running?
Oh, yeah, I've already seen it. I'm pleasantly surprised by how well they've taken to it, and I'm sure some of it has to do with the accessibility of the content, but the other teachers here and the cross discipline work that we do has been extraordinary. They're learning things in English that they're carrying over to our class, that with the writing skills and everything like that. It's just made it so much easier and from the teacher's perspective to work with the students. They're so well prepared. So very pleased.
I'm going to end on a word that you guys, both of you use, which is creativity. And I want to thank you, Liz, and thank the administration in the high school, again, for creatively approaching the whole issue about what can we do to open up more doors for our kids. And this is clearly one of those that have been a new door, new opportunity, more challenges, but obviously one that kids are willing to take on. So thank you very much, Peter. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Emma, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us, and we certainly hope this has been informative. It certainly has been informative for me. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Bye now.